Welcome to today's Explainer. Picture this for a second. Violent tornadoes sweeping across the south, floodwaters drowning river valleys, a wild, blinding blizzard up in the mountains, and a baking, relentless heat dome parked right over the desert. And get this, all of it happening in the exact same week. I mean, it sounds like the plot of a doomsday movie, right? But no, this is the chaotic meteorological reality of May 2026. Today, we're going to step into the shoes of a meteorologist, and I'm going to walk you through the heart of these severe, overlapping weather systems. Okay, let's dive into this and map out today's completely chaotic weather journey. 1. The big picture. 2. Southern severe storms. 3. The high flood risk. 4. A freak spring snowstorm. And 5. The heat dome effect. Starting off with Section 1, the big picture, looking at this coast-to-coast chaos. Now, to really understand the severity of what we're facing this week, we have to look at the massive scale of the threat. We are talking about over 6.5 million people sitting right in the immediate crosshairs for severe weather right out of the gate this week. The Storm Prediction Center has already drawn up a slight risk zone covering North Texas, Arkansas, and southeast Missouri. It's a massive area on high alert. Moving right into Section 2, Southern severe storms and their explosive development. So, down in the deep south, there's this fascinating and dangerous meteorological concept at play called steep lapse rates. Basically, as you travel higher up into the atmosphere, the air cools incredibly fast. This sudden, dramatic temperature drop acts just like high-octane fuel for the atmosphere, rapidly pumping up updrafts. The result? You get these explosive storms that can drop hail the size of golf balls right through windshields and whip up winds strong enough to literally snap power poles in half. And this brilliantly illustrates the terrifying march of these systems. Tuesday afternoon, things really fire up. By Tuesday night, we're looking at independent, rotating storms bringing a very severe nighttime tornado risk. Then, as we move into Wednesday, these storms merge into a massive, solid line, screaming eastward at highway speeds of 60 miles per hour. Now, you might be wondering, why is the system maintaining such terrifying strength over such a long distance? Well, 2 words: wind shear. We're tracking wind shear, pushing 65 knots right over Mississippi. In the meteorology world, that is an extreme indicator. It is more than enough shear to get supercells spinning rapidly and to push the tornado risk through the roof. Listen, the bottom line here is preparation. If you've got Cinco de Mayo plans for Tuesday evening, you need to move them indoors. Nighttime tornadoes are notoriously deadly because you just can't see them coming. If you live anywhere from Dallas-Fort Worth out through Little Rock, you absolutely need a rock-solid shelter strategy tonight. And please, make sure your phone is off silent so it rings loudly if a warning drops at 1 a.m. Don't let your guard down just because the sun goes down. That takes us to Section 3, high flood risk from southeast heavy rain. Because wind and hail, they aren't the whole story here. We have a massive wave of cold Canadian energy basically slamming head-on into deep tropical moisture churning up from the Gulf. This atmospheric crash creates a highly efficient rainmaker. It acts like a giant sponge being squeezed out, dumping up to 4 inches of rain in a very, very short window of time. So where does all that excess water go? Honestly, it's going to turn low-lying roads into raging rivers by dinner time. As a forecaster, it's the southern Appalachians that worry me the most right now. The mountainous terrain there acts as a natural funnel, channeling massive amounts of water into tiny creeks at breakneck speeds. It takes exactly half the rain to cause double the problem in the mountains. Flash flooding is an incredibly immediate, life-threatening situation here. All right, shifting gears to Section 4, a spring snowstorm bringing winter back to the Rockies. I know, how on earth is it snowing heavily in the middle of May? Well, the major curveball here is a cut-off low. It's this highly amplified weather pattern that's literally dragging freezing Canadian air all the way down into the Front Range. When that bitter, unseasonable cold crashes into the storm moisture streaming up from the southeast, boom, you get a bizarre, full-blown May snowstorm. And just how cold are we talking? Well, a few thousand feet up, temperatures are going to completely crash to below 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Since the heaviest bands of snow are going to fall overnight when those temperatures hit rock bottom, it's going to pile up incredibly fast on the pavement, creating slick, deadly ice by morning. If we look at the epicenter along the I-25 corridor, we are definitely not just talking about light spring flurries here. Spots near Rocky Mountain National Park could very easily see snow totals exceeding 2 feet. Let that sink in. This is a full-blown winter storm dropping in weeks before summer. Even down at the lower elevations, we're looking at a solid 2 to 8 inches. But here's the catch. This isn't fluffy winter snow. It's dense, wet, concrete-like snow. And because the trees have already fully leafed out for spring, this immense weight is going to snap large branches and tear down power lines everywhere. You really need to treat this like a deadly mid-January blizzard and just stay off the roads. Finally, let's move to our last stop, Section 5, and see how this heat dome effect is building out west. We are seeing this completely bizarre contrast splitting the West Coast right now. Up in the Pacific Northwest, it's gorgeous, a perfect, clear 80-degree day with super comfortable dry air. But look down to the Southwest, and the U.S. is bracing for a highly dangerous heat wave. Temperatures are going to soar well past 100 degrees, while the humidity totally plummets. So, what's driving this devastating heat threatening California and the Southwest? It's a classic heat dome. Imagine a massive ridge of high pressure literally parking itself right over the region. It traps sinking air, forcing it to compress and heat up intensely at the surface. It just bakes the area day after day, exactly like a closed car sitting out in a hot summer parking lot. Thanks to this heat dome, the desert humidity is dropping straight into the teens. This scorching, bone-dry air is incredibly dangerous to be out in. If you're heading out to Las Vegas for EDC this week, you have to hydrate aggressively. The risk for heat exhaustion is going to skyrocket for anyone spending time outside. We are essentially skipping spring completely and diving headfirst into the deadliest heat of the year. So this brings us to a pretty pressing question to end today's explainer. As you've seen, our atmosphere is deeply interconnected and highly volatile. If nature is already throwing violent nighttime tornadoes, flash floods, concrete-like snow, and a blazing desert heat dome at us all at exactly the same time in May, what kind of brutal, chaotic summer is this signaling for the months ahead? Stay safe out there, stay weather aware, and we'll see you in the next explainer.